Well, it's now it's 4:35. October 14th. I looked at my clock, it was 4:24. Now it's 4, then it was 4:34. Now it's 4:35. October 14th, 2025. And I deleted a journal entry from yesterday because, I talked about the ass huckers, except I used the word F. And my, phone told me from YouTube that it was not good enough for children content or whatever. So I deleted it. And with the understanding that there are restrictions, and in life there's a lot of restrictions. And the thing is, words, just because of a certain word that you say, it might be restricted. And that's what the funny thing is, that today, with words, like if I just think, okay, for example, MAGA means Make America Great Again. Well, who could argue with the concept of making America great, but I don't really know about making America great again? It's like it's a drawback to some other time when America was great. But it's a good slogan, I guess, and Donald Trump, he used it to win his presidency and start a movement of people that are kind of like angry about where we've gone as a society, and they don't think that it's a good place for us to be in our government and politics and society. So we gotta go back to something else and then make America great again. All right. And now they have like a lot of like people from the Make America Great Again movement, like arguing against what they call Antifa. And so Antifa is now like a bad thing in the minds of a lot of people. And they say Antifa is the group that is terrorists. Okay? And Antifa means anti-fascist. And fascism is a bad thing. Fascism is a movement like, where you have kings and supreme rulers in charge, and basically it's suppressing human freedom and choice based on empirical evidence and truth. And our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence, when America was like born out of the milieu of fascism and autocracy, and something new was born, America. And now America is, in my opinion, going down the shitter. And it's because of you know, oligarchical kind of rule, you know, big money business and rulership. And government in America is supposed to be of the people, for the people, and by the people, not big interests of companies that are their whole sole purpose, you know, is profit and power and rulership. And you also have another one, you know, is words, you know, MAGA, Antifa, and then now the No Kings. Okay, so No Kings is, okay, how can you argue with that concept? No kings. So on the 18th, you know, today's 14th, on the 18th, I'm going to participate in a No Kings march or, you know, rally or something. I don't know. They're going to meet, you know, somewhere here in Zephyr Hills. And I'm going to participate because I believe in this. I believe that this, like this, it started back, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. Citizens United. Okay, this is another thing, you know. Okay, Citizens United. You would think that Citizens United means, like, you know, the people. You know, Citizens United. And that ain't at all what it's about. Citizens United was so that big companies can inject a lot of money into the media to sway the minds and the hearts of people toward certain you know, supporting certain movements. And these movements are movements brought by big company interests, you know. And I just have to say that, for example, there's a few people in America that have all the money. And they, you know, like Elon Musk, for example, you know, he has more money and brings in more money as one person, him, in 1 year than 52% of the entire American population. I mean, he contributed like $200 million to Donald Trump's campaign. So what that means is, you know, put in $200 million, you know, you can buy a lot of news media coverage and persuade the hearts and the minds of people and produce a lot of propaganda or a lot of bullshit. Now, you know, you got a news outlet, you know, a news media outlet, you know, Fox News by Rupert Murdoch started that. I remember when I was in graduate school, I had a professor, you know, this is a long time ago, okay? And Rupert Murdoch was younger, and he really despised Rupert Murdoch for what he was doing. And I didn't know anything about Rupert Murdoch. You know, Fox News, okay, they always had a lot of good, you know, TV shows, you know, you could watch after work and stuff, come home at nighttime, you know, in prime time television. You know, Fox News always had on a lot of good shows and stuff like that. But their news outlet, you know, and again, you know, way back then, I didn't know, really, I really wasn't also invested in politics or anything like that. You know, I listened to them all. and see what they say and stuff. But now, I understand, like, that, well, Fox News, for example, has already been sued for propaganda, for just saying stuff that's not true. Like when the Trump, President Trump, and when he was in the 45th term, back in, like, I don't know, whenever he was president the first time. And he wouldn't give it up. And he wanted to cheat because he's always been a cheater. And he had people storm the Capitol, and man, they killed people. And he pardoned them all. That was the beginning of the end, if you ask me. But then, Joe Biden beat him in the election, and so then Biden was president for 4 years, and then Donald Trump got put back in office, even after he did that. And Donald Trump is convicted for fraud. 32 times he's been convicted of fraud. And he's been convicted of sexual abuse. And now they got the stuff with the Epstein files, They shut down the government so that this one senator can't be sworn in, and so that they'll have to release some Epstein files or something, whatever still exists. And because, I'm sure they destroyed a lot of it. Because it's a cover-up, and they don't want people to know that the people with a lot of money have privilege, and they don't have to be held accountable. Because they can buy off the courts, and they can do that. And you would think, like in America, they're not supposed to be able to do that kind of stuff, because the government that we have, has checks and balances built in, and and three branches: the executive, the judiciary, and the Congress. For example, only Congress is supposed to be able to declare war, but yet you have Donald Trump as the executor, now, and bringing, National Guard and even the military to suppress people that protest. And they call them, with the No Kings movement, they're starting to call them haters of America. Nothing could be further from the truth. The No Kings movement, the anti-fascism movement, that's because we're talking about making America great again. That's making America great again. No kings. And the Citizens United, said that, like, companies can be like people. See, people are supposed to be able to support politics and stuff, and vote and have fair debates and stuff like that, and make negotiations, and that's how society is ruled. And taxation, I mean, look, everything that we buy, every piece of food that we buy to eat, everything that we buy, everything has taxes. Everything is taxed. And yet, they want to, the big companies and the big interests and the big donors, they in their big, beautiful bill that they, it's been passed, but that's why the government is shut down right now, because, the Democrats, they're one last thing that they can do, since they don't have, it's a Republican executive office, a Republican Supreme Court, a Republican judiciary. But even some of the Republican lower judges and courts, they're still, standing up against this kind of stuff that Trump is wanting to implement. Like shooting people in the head with gas bombs. Like they did to the ministers, just standing out there, shot them in the head. And slamming people to the ground, busting in their cars. And these people, they're targeted just because, and the Supreme Court said they can be targeted because of the color of their skin or because of where they are. And it's an atrocity. And the No Kings movement is a group of people rising up from America that are saying, no, that's not America. And it's sad. It's sad, the lies and the propaganda. I went to the store, Dollar General, and to get some beer, and they have kind of beer I like, and I said to the cashier something about have a nice day, and always say from your heart, to hell with Donald Trump. And she said to me, I would never say to hell with Donald Trump. And then, I gave one of the beers I bought, to, a homeless guy out there, I've seen him a lot. And I talked to him a little bit, and he doesn't know anything about what's going on. He showed me that his phone was broken. And then I got to stop by one of the church boxes, and I seen, the art of problem solving. I thought, well, I should go ahead and take a look at that book. I guess the problems that I need to resolve. Basically, like what I'm going to put on my sign that I haven't done yet. I'm been in a little bit of a stupor. A slump. As I'm caught between feelings of hopelessness and uncertainty. And I want to. Sometimes, like last night, I get so angry sometimes I just yell out, for anybody to hear me. To hell with Donald Trump. I yell it out as loud as I can. And, but, I woke up today with a headache because I drank too much beer, and I smoked too many cigarettes, and I shouldn't even be smoking. I don't know why I'm smoking. I just started smoking again after, Sport died. And, I just think about myself, like, I know I'm going to die. I think about, like, how I'm going to die, I mean, believe me, sometimes I think about, before I have to suffer too much, just ending it my own self, Like, I never used a gun to try to kill myself. I don't really think I would want to really do that. But, because I wouldn't want to, like, miss. But I knew a girl, a woman, my daughter's friend, her mom was also, I think she was also a substitute teacher, and I was a substitute teacher. And I talked to her at a copier, and she was very, very happy. And I really liked her because she was happy and smiled and bright and shiny kind of, you know. And then I come to find out that she was with her boyfriend, and they were drinking, and she was depressed, and she said she just wanted to die, and he handed her his shotgun. I guess it was a shotgun, and she just put the barrel in her mouth and pushed the trigger and blew her head with either BB shot or whatever kind of gun it was, man. Killed herself right there. And she was happy, and I thought she was like a shining, happy person, and she did that to herself. And, other people die. Like, again, my daughter had another friend, her name was Zoe, She killed herself. And she tried more than one time to kill herself. But the last time she killed herself, like, she did, like a bunch of things. Like, she not only hung herself by kicking the chair out from underneath her, and after she had put lighter fluid or something like that in her mouth, and super glued her lips together. And I think she even, cut her wrists. Like, she did all that, before she kicked the chair out from underneath her to kill herself. And I had a friend who really liked her. I mean, he was my roommate for a long time. And you just think, how people throw their lives away. And I ain't gonna do that. But there's another guy, this reporter, Hunter Thompson, and he made famous something called Gonzo reporting. And it came because I watched a documentary on him, and he liked to, shoot stuff and blow up cars and stuff like that on his property, like way out in the wilderness or whatever, where you can do that kind of stuff. But, when it came time when he was so done with life, he just put the gun in his mouth, I guess, and pulled the trigger and blew the back of his head off from the stem before you're. I mean, if you go like that, you're gonna blow that all off right back there. You're gonna be dead. Your brain's down. And he did that. And the wrong people are dying. That's all I'm saying. And distress and sadness and hopelessness and despair can drive a person to that. I mean, well, I think about that kind of stuff. But, I'm not ready to die yet, even though my dogs are dwindling in numbers, and now I got 6. And they're all old. And as they go, I feel like I'm going to go. And but I got a note sent to me on my phone, text message. Like I don't know how they get me. Like I put my stuff out. Look, I've worked all my life. I've put a lot of stuff out there for getting jobs and everything. Like I think this company called Indeed. I know I used to have my resume out there. I think it's them. But for a content evaluator, well, I told them I'm interested because I need to make a little more money, and so I don't have it so hard financially, and but the other thing is like in today's society, like under the Trump regime, what they're doing now is they're collecting everybody's data. Like, and if you're a Democrat, then they'll go after you. Like if they can find any kind of problem in your life, especially like if it has to do with maybe taxes or something, I guess. Taxes would probably be the biggest thing, Because the reason I say that is because like they went after this lady, Letitia James, who is a person in the Federal Reserve, I think, who Trump wanted to get rid of, so he can put somebody else in there to do his bidding. They're trying to charge her with bank fraud for a loan application for a second house that she said was her second house, but then she rented it out, and that's something that like she could save like $47 a month if she put on the paperwork one thing. Well, stuff like that really don't even matter. But there's like a 30-year prison sentence. I swear to God. And like he's got an enemies list that he's going after, And it's just that's why I will join the No Kings movement, because he's acting like a king, And I'm not saying, people shouldn't be honest or anything. People have to be honest. And I've said that. And, lying and stealing and cheating is not the American way. It's not the Christian way. It's not the ethical way or the fair way. But some people believe in power, and like Trump believes that whatever he says has to be, even if it's a lie. Well, and it's sad. And a lot of times I really don't feel a lot of hope. Yeah, especially like when that lady said to me she would never say to hell with Trump. And, I said to her, you probably only listen to Fox News then, don't you? And she said, well, I certainly don't listen to MSNBC. Well, look, the best news, there's resources that give you actually good news, okay? There's a news organization called Ground News, like groundnews.com. And they will put on there how many times one news outlet reports on something. They report all the news, everything that's going on, and then they say like who's reporting on it, okay? And the people that are, what you call far right, they report on one set of news, and then another people, far left, they report on another thing. But the thing is, you got to look at all that, because You know, there even used to be a TV program with Michael J. Fox called Spin City. You know, and because they spin stuff a certain way to make it appear a certain way. They take it, and like even I think it was in Trump's first term. You know, there was this one, the person that reports for the White House. You know, I can't remember what it's called now. But anyway, Kellyanne Conway. I know, like SNL, and SNL is now under attack, and the comedians are under attack. Everybody is under attack by this president if they make fun of him or something, you know. Well, she was talking about, like early on, about alternative facts. As if there's such a thing as alternative facts. Well, there's alternative, spin facts, but they're not really facts. It's just like propaganda. That's what propaganda is. They make it appear to be what it's not. And that's what I'm saying, like the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, like they're supposed to be like a bunch of Christians or something, but they're anything but Christians. They're not Christians. Some of them might be Christians, but there's a lot of people in America that can't tell shit from apple butter. And, it's sad for me. And so, on this day, I'm only going to document this, so maybe, like, in the future, like, even if my grandchildren don't ever see any of this that I'm saying, at least maybe, hopefully, like, I can know maybe 5 years from now, maybe things hopefully will be better. And maybe we'll have more guardrails on the abuses of power, especially like from the executive branch, like Donald Trump is doing right now. Like maybe we'll learn our lesson and improve, but I don't know if we will or not. And it's a sad thing. But I'm just hoping, for the best. And maybe, preparing for the worst. And I just have to say, I hope you have a better life, I wish that you could be benefited by, what I would consider to be the wealth of my experience. I don't know if that will ever be, though. And see, the thing is, everything that I've learned, I think is going to, like, perish with me. Like, but I hope not. I'd say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And that's my hope for you. And if you ever do see my journal notes, it says a really pertinent time. And laying the groundwork, for what the future reality is going to be. And life is changing. And that's all I got to say. I'm at 34 minutes. I got a lot of fours today. All right, bye.